Hi, thank you for watching my channel today. My name's Sarah and my channel is called Your True Self. I thought I'd change my scenery today and film in front of the Christmas tree just so it's a little bit more seasonal. And today I'm filming my November wrap up. So my November plans were to do Nov and Non-Fiction November. And then as I was about to start, 3 library books which I'd had on order for ages arrived all at the same time, none of which I was able to renew because other people had ordered them, and so I had to read all those. So I actually only read one novella, and I nearly finished a non-fiction, but I carried over slightly into December. So the books have all gone back to library now, so I can't hold them up, so I'll insert a picture. But the first one that I read was The Heavens by Sandra Newman, which I had really been looking forward to because I had heard other people talk about the plot and I thought it'd be right up my street. So it's set in 2 time periods, 1593 and the year 2000. And the same character, Kate, goes between the 2 time periods. So when she's asleep, she often dreams of a life in 1593 where she is I don't really know what she is actually. She's that sort of in the household of a group of musicians and actors, and she's from quite a good family, and she meets this guy called Will, who is William Shakespeare, and when she wakes up from her dreams, whatever's happened in the dreams has changed the present in the year 2000. So sometimes she'll wake up in a different place to where she fell asleep, or people have done different things, or people aren't in a relationship where they were before, so it's very confusing for her, and the people in the present day think that she's suffering from a mental illness. And so I'm just going to pause for a second because I just have to go and put something in the oven. 1 second. So that was the premise, and I didn't really like it, I have to be honest. So I found it that I read it quite quickly because I was sort of intrigued by what was happening, but it was quite confusing at times. And I think one of the main reasons I was disappointed was because right at the beginning of this year, I read Mariana by Susanna Kearsley, and that had a similar premise, but when the character in that book came back, nothing had changed in the present, and she was actually revisiting a past life. And I think I was hoping for that sort of thing in The Heavens, but I didn't really get it. I wasn't satisfied. I didn't really like the characters. I found I found it quite confusing. A lot of the characters in the 2000 bit are quite sort of wrapped up in themselves and selfish and weird. Some of them are just weird. Like there's one character who just walks around naked all the time just because she wants to, and it's just like, what was the point of that? I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. So I was disappointed. I gave it 3 stars, but actually I probably downgraded it to a 2 now because I just didn't do it for me. So the second one I did have a good experience with. That was The Doll Factory by Elizabeth Macneal, and this was a great book. So this was set in the Victorian period of London, and it's following Iris, and so she's a twin. Her twin sister's in it a bit, but not loads. I can't remember her twin sister's name now. But Iris is working in a doll factory. So she wants to be an artist, and she's painting the faces onto the dolls, and she does them to order. So sometimes they'll present her with a photo, like a parent will present her with the photo of a child, and she'll have to copy their face onto the doll. And she's working with her twin sister who's making clothes for the dolls, and they've got this awful boss who works them to the bone, and they live in these really kind of dismal lodgings as part of the job. And Iris meets a guy called Louis, who is a successful artist, and he lives a very kind of, I guess what would have been like quite a bohemian lifestyle in the 1850s, and he wants her to be his model and to pose for him in photos. And she doesn't know what to do because morally she finds this isn't a very pleasing idea, but she says that she will do it if Silas will teach her how to paint. Sorry, not Silas, Louis, if Louis will teach her how to paint. So that's one aspect of the story. And then there's this really, really creepy, horrible guy called Silas, who is a taxidermist, and he basically taxidermies animals, and some of them he keeps for an exhibition which is upcoming, and some of them he sells to the artists for their pictures. And he is so creepy and so vile, and he spots Iris, and he develops an obsession with Iris. And so there's this love story developing between Iris and Louis, and then this obsession developing between Silas, from Silas for Iris, and it kind of builds and builds. And the only thing I would say, I really, really enjoyed it. It's very atmospheric, very creepy, very good, but the ending disappointed me a bit because I felt the ending was a bit rushed. It kind of went build, finish. And I was like, oh, I thought they could have done probably another 50 pages, to be honest. But other than that, I thought it was brilliant. I would definitely read more of Elizabeth Macneal's work. Thought she was great, and yeah, really enjoyed it. 4 stars. And then the next one that I got from the library was Girl, Woman, Other by Bernadine Evaristo, but no one's ever heard of that book before. And I ordered it when it was on the long list for the Booker. It was the only one I ordered because it was the one that appealed to me the most. And I absolutely loved it. I thought it was amazing. It's such a work of genius. So it's basically about 4 groups of 3 women. So a woman, a girl, and someone who's considered other by society, I suppose. And each group has their own story. And so, for instance, the first story is a mother, a daughter, and mother's best friend. And you hear from similar circumstances, but you hear from all 3 of them. And so you get kind of different sides of stories, different perspectives. And then very cleverly, the 4 groups of 3 women, their lives start to very subtly intertwine, or you'll see where this group of women had a link with the last group. And sometimes it's a very distant link, sometimes it's a very close link, and some of the links aren't revealed till right at the end, where there's sort of a section which is not an epilogue, but kind of like an epilogue, I guess. Where lots of the characters come together. It was so well done. It was so intelligently written, and I also didn't say all of the women in the story are black women, or women who are mixed race. So that was so insightful, so interesting. I felt like I learned a lot from reading it, and I love how when you read books, they can expand your understanding of certain issues, and this book definitely helped me see things from perspectives that I can't ever see, but because I'm not a woman of colour, but I mean it helped me understand how it might feel sometimes in certain situations. And it was just such a phenomenal book. It's really hard to actually say what it's about because there's obviously lots of different plots, and it covers a huge period of time. So it covers about 150 years over the different stories. And there's the other thing I would say is there's a lot of queer relationships in this book, and I thought that was also very, very well woven into the story, because it was I'd say sexuality and gender were very fluid in a lot of the stories, and I found that really, really interesting as well, and really I guess when I say expanded my mind, I don't want it to sound like I was ever closed-minded, because I'm not. I'm really open to learning more experiences written from other perspectives, is what I wanted to say. And this book did that for me, and I thought it was astounding and definitely deserved to win the Booker. And I'm so gutted that she had to share her prize, especially being the first woman of colour to win it. I think the fact that she had to share her prize is just such a shame, and she deserved to be the sole winner. And I know lots of people feel the same way, but yeah, book was absolutely brilliant. If you haven't read it, I definitely recommend. One thing I would say, when I started reading it, for the first maybe 20-25 pages, I was like, I'm not sure if this is my cup of tea, because it was very, very up to date and modern. and it almost felt a bit too in the now for me, and I wasn't really sure about the writing style, but I then persevered because I was like, well, obviously I'm going to persevere because just, you know, everyone loves it so much. And then I was like, oh yeah, I'm totally in it now. So, and I actually, when I spoke to, very briefly, I spoke to Charlotte from Tired Mama Tries to Read, and she said it took her quite a few pages to get into it at the start. So I was like, okay, it's not just me, that's good. So if you do pick it up and you think, I'm not sure if this is for me, give it a little bit of time, because I think you will get into it. So I'll stop gushing about that one. And then the last one I read was my only novella of the month, and that is The Call of the Wild by Jack London. So this is one that I didn't even buy. I ordered a copy of White Fang because I couldn't find my childhood copy, and now I have found that, but never mind. And this just came with it, which is really nice. And so this follows a dog called Buck, and it's set in the time of the gold rush in America. And we just follow Buck basically from where he was like a beloved dog belonging to a family, and he was like a real mix of a hunting dog and a family pet, and someone who protected the children, and someone who was like really obedient to their master. And he then was because he's like he's never really described, but I kind of visualized him as like a big husky dog, and he gets stolen by one of the servants and sold for the gold rush because they're looking for dogs, and the servant's poor and he needs the money, and he gets sold to like cruel people. So this isn't easy to read in a lot of places. Buck is very resilient, and he's amazing and he's so intelligent, and it's about his relationship with the other dogs, because they're basically having to pull sleds along icy, snowy landscapes for hundreds of miles, and it's about his position in the pack, about his trying to establish dominance, about man trying to establish dominance over him. But it's also about, so when I read the introduction, it said that it's also about Jack London's own struggle with having this call to the wild, and struggling with everyday sort of role in life when he was being called to the wild. So when Buck is making his journey as a sled dog, it sort of awakens this inner wildness in him, and his ancestry kind of is very much brought to life, and he remembers, it's like his ancestors are awakening through him and remembering what his breed of dog used to do. And so he gets less and less domesticated, and he has this longing to go and live in the wild again. And it's a really interesting kind of dual look at animals, and how this also can be transferred to people and their feelings about trying to live in the modern world and their call to back to nature, which I can certainly appreciate. So it's a harsh book. It's at times heartbreaking, at times uplifting. Buck, you just want to like bury your head in his fur and hug him. It's so, yeah, he's amazing, and I really enjoyed it. I think we gave it 4 stars, but I can't actually remember now. I might have given it 5. I think probably 4. I don't know, I can't remember. So that was my only contribution to Nob Nob, unfortunately, because of my extenuating circumstances, as I said. And then I nearly finished Constellations by Sinead Gleeson, which was my non-fiction, which I have finished now, but I didn't finish till December, so I will leave that for December's wrap-up. So I'd be really interested to know if you've read any of those books and what your thoughts were, and what you were reading, whether you took part in novellas in November or non-fiction November, and how you found it if you did. And I hope you're all having a lovely week and you're feeling very festive, and I will speak to you all soon. Bye.